Alrighty, 8th grade, we're going to start working on section 7.3, which is going to be a section that I really enjoy, and I hope that you guys enjoy it as well. So let's start with the vocab here. So if I move down to 7.3, I have the triangle sum theorem first. Okay. Now, the triangle sum theorem says that angles of a triangle add up to 180 degrees. So that's number one, meaning if you add any three angles up, it'll be 180 degrees for the entire triangle. Acute triangles, all angles in the triangle are acute. It's pretty simple, but if we go back and think about our definition of acute, it means that an angle is less than 90 degrees. Okay. A right triangle has one right angle, meaning has one angle that's 90. Obtuse triangle has one obtuse angle. Okay. Obtuse angles are greater than 90 degrees. An equilateral triangle has three equal sides and three congruent angles, meaning that all the sides are the same and all the angles are the same. Now, isosceles is where we get a little trickier. Isosceles has at least two congruent sides, or yeah, we can say congruent. Congruent and equal are going to be the same thing down here. At least two congruent sides and two congruent angles, meaning two of the angles instead of three are equal, isosceles. And scalene has zero congruent sides and zero congruent angles. And move down to the last one. I know we're moving quick, but you can pause it at any point. Adding any two sides of a triangle is greater than the third side. Okay? Meaning, if you have two triangles together, if you take any two of those sides and add them together, that sum will be larger than the third side. And we're going to go into great detail on all these. I just wanted to make sure we get that sheet filled out correctly. Alrighty, so let's take a gander. Triangle sum theorem, which means the three angles in a triangle add up to 180 degrees, which is what we just talked about. Meaning, if we wanted to find the value of x, we can simply add 23 and 86 together, which gives us 109. And we know that all three angles are equal to 180. So if we did 180 minus 109, it would give us 71 degrees, which is the value of x. Okay, triangle sum theorem. All three angles in a triangle add up to 180 degrees. Okay, moving on to acute triangle. Triangle with three acute angles, meaning each of these angles has to be less than 90 degrees. So let's say that's 55, that's 45, and that's 80. Okay, acute. Okay, every angle is acute. A right triangle has one right angle. Now, it's pretty easy to visualize the one that's right here. We put our right symbol, and that's 90 degrees. The other two don't matter, but that is a right triangle. This is an obtuse triangle because this angle right here, x, is obtuse. Let's say it's 120 degrees, greater than 90. So that's what an obtuse triangle looks like. Alrighty. Now we're getting a little more detailed. A triangle where all three angles are the same is an equilateral. Now you might say this only has two of the angles labeled. Well, and that's true, but the triangle sum theorem tells us that we can figure out the third by simply finding the angle measures of these two and adding them up, which is 60 plus 60 is 120 degrees. And 180 minus 120 tells us that our third angle is 60 degrees as well. Equilateral triangle, we have all three angles are the same. Alrighty. And an isosceles, same thing down here. 80 plus 80 is going to be equal to 160. 180 minus 160 will give us our third angle measure of 20 degrees. So we have two angles that are equal to each other. We have a third that's not. Therefore, we are an isosceles triangle. Alrighty. Scalene is the one you'll see most often. All three angles are different. 71, 63, 36. These add up to 180. So that's our scalene triangle. And finally, the most important part of this section the triangle inequality theorem, which says the sums of any two sides of a triangle must be greater than the third. And what that means is, if we added up, let's say 3 and 8, that has to be bigger than 6. And in this case, it is. But then we'd have to do 8 plus 6. And that would have to be bigger than 3. And it is. But here's the one that really matters. These will always be fine. It's always, if you add the smallest two sides up, that's where your problem's going to usually happen. So if we added 3 plus 6, that has to be greater than 8. And 9 is greater than 8. Therefore, this is a triangle. This is an okay triangle to make. If this wasn't, then this would be a triangle that couldn't exist. So triangle inequality theorem. You add the smallest two sides. It's got to be bigger than the third. Okay? How are we doing on time? Alrighty, we're doing good. 6 minutes of vocab. Let's move on to some examples. I want to find out what the value of x and y is on each of these. Okay, so if I go 4 seconds up. Okay, so if I go here, I want to know what x is. That means I have to add the 40 and 80 together, which gives me 120. Then I have to go 180 minus the 120, which equals 60. Therefore, x equals 60 degrees. Alrighty? Triangle sum theorem. Alrighty, so this one down here, this symbol means that we have a 90-degree angle on our hands. Same thing we did up here. 63 plus 90 is equal to 153. Okay? And then I'd have to go 180 minus that 153 to give me 27. Okay? Therefore, y has to be equal to 27 degrees. There you go. Let's do one more example before I let you go off on your own here. Alrighty, so we're finding x again. So I would add 66 plus the 42. And that gives me 108. So I'd have to go 180 minus that 108, which equals 72. Therefore, x has to equal 72 degrees. And down on the bottom, this has to equal 90. So I would do 90 plus the 72, which equals 162. 180 minus 162, you're noticing a pattern, I would hope, meaning our y is equal to 18 degrees. Make sure you remember to put that degree symbol in there. It has to be 18 degrees. Alrighty? So I'd like you... Oh, now we're getting to a little bit tougher here. Let's talk about these. Okay? We know that the interior angles of a triangle add up to 180 degrees. Okay? That means if we would add all of these measures up, it would be equal to 180. Now here's the problem. We don't know what each of these measures are, but we do know that they're equal to each other. M, M, and M. Okay? So if we did 180 is equal to M plus M plus M, whatever that is, we'll get our answer. Now if we have 3 M's together, that means we can add them up into 3 M's. And now we have an equation. What are the 3 and the M doing to each other? Multiplication. So we have to divide, absolutely. Therefore, it's 60 equals M. Put our little degree symbol up there. We know that each of these angles is 60 degrees. So on the bottom, the same thing, except the numbers are a little different. So we have 180 degrees. It's going to be equal to each of these angles measured together. So 3n plus 2n plus n. And that might look weird, but that's what each of the angles equals. We just have to figure out what n is. So if we did 180 equals 3n plus 2n plus n are 6 total n's. Same thing we did up here. The 6 and the n are being multiplied together. Therefore, we have to divide both sides. So therefore, our 30 is equal to our n. Now, I forgot the little symbol. Now, I'd like to go back and look at what this triangle actually is created. So this would be 30. This has to be 60 because it's twice the size of this one. And then this has to be 90 because it's 3 times the size. So this actually created a right triangle. The picture just didn't look like it. Alrighty. Last part. Can these sides form a triangle? And what you have to do is that triangle inequality theorem, which says that if we add the two smallest sides up and it's bigger than the third side, then sure. So here our two smaller sides are 3 and 4. So we add 3 and 4 together, and that equals 7. And since 7 is bigger than our third side of 5, yes, this can create a triangle. And yes, you do have to show your work. But now here we have 7 and 8. And if we added these together, we would get 15. But 15 is not bigger than 15. Therefore, this cannot create a triangle. It has to be bigger, not equal to. Alrighty? So I'd like you to pause the video here and ask yourself, can these create a triangle? So add the two smaller sides up, see if it's greater, and then I'll come back and show you. Alrighty, so we're back. Now, if we added 6 and 8 together, we would get 14. But 14 is not bigger than 18. Therefore, no. This does not create a triangle. And here we would have 5 plus 10, which equals 15. And 15 is bigger than 12. So yes, this one does create a triangle. Alrighty. So here are your problems. This one down here is 1 through 28 even. Okay, that'll be 15. You will have to get 12 right to move on. And this one down here, you also have to get 12 right. Okay? Remember, do the first one only. Hand it in, I'll correct it, and then you do the second one. Alrighty, thanks so much.